Hey guys, this is Angry Dave here. We're doing our next installment of Boom Beach Hits. This one I'm happy to do because this is one of my good friends in the game here. This is actually it's kind of a odd situation. The account is Angry Zod. Doing the hit for Zod is Cool Kid, also known as Cookie. He is an Angry Assassins co-leader. He is the other leader in Angry Monkeys, and he's also an Angry Turtle, so he's a very skilled player. I got a message that this was a pretty good Green Court rush. The base isn't 100% standard, but it's still a really good example for us to go ahead and go through. So we're going to go through it. He is 6 GBE, 4 troop damage, and he's taking Sergeant Brick. So let's get in the hit. As always, we're going to play the video once through. He does a single smoke on the beach and does a flag landing on troops. He's got this really annoying grappler to deal with. It makes getting cells a pain. If you noticed on his flags, he deployed all the troops up high and Brick down low to keep Brick out of that grappler range. This is where it gets a little dicey, but he's able to keep out a grappler, or keep Brick at a grappler range, because otherwise that would ruin his hit. I'm going to speed this up a bit here. This base has slightly over 2 million in health. Now that's before you take all these cells. Once the cells get taken, then it'll bring down the health a bit more. And we're going to speed this up a little further. We don't need to see him collecting all these cells. Player's back left, gets his smokes ready, and then starts his walk in. Now, delay is really important to keep on this base, so make sure that your smokes are overlapping somewhat and are a bit heavy. He actually does another smoke there just to be extra safe on this hit. We're going to watch this rush on 1 speed, and once we break it on down, then we're going to go ahead and do that in half speed. He drops critters. Ends up doing what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shocks. He just starts hammering on the core and then does an immediate re-critter to distract the left side rockets. And he goes and pops the core with no troops left, only Brick. So he did a really good job on this hit. Made it look pretty easy. It's really annoying with that grappler. That's the type of thing that can throw off plenty of players, but Cookie's a really great player, and so he didn't let that distract him too much. Alright, let's go ahead and break this on down. Now, first things first is he deploys his smoke on the beach. Now, where does that smoke go? It goes on this horizontal line here, and you'll see when he deploys his troops, along with Brick, it covers all 8 boats and the 9th boat containing the hero perfectly. So that's your smoke point. It's a little down from this cannon and flamethrower. It's straight on that. If you follow that line all the way down the beach and put that smoke there right where the boats come off. Now, I pointed this out a little earlier. Pause that there, and we're going to zoom in. Because he has that grappler, he deploys all his boats up high, and then the 1 flag down low, back down towards the water, is for his Brick. That way, keeps her out of that grappler range, because this grappler has a really wide range. If it takes Brick, it's going to ruin his hit. He's going to go ahead and farm a little bit cells. The reason why he's doing this is twofold. That way he actually collects some cells, but then that way he gets his troops nice and tight before he starts flaring them over. Flares over to this bottom left-hand corner. Deploys critters and cells to protect from the grappler. So that's the reason why he's doing that. Normally you do not drop critters just to take more cells or anything like that. That is purely to distract the grappler. And you're going to watch him take these cells. Lets troops go ahead and go to work. Trying to conserve as much GBE as possible. And then he's going to go ahead and flare back over. Doesn't want to get too greedy with cells because you don't want to lose delay, his lasers, or anything like that if you go roll too far to the right. or start getting picked off by these sniper towers if you go too far to the right. Okay, so now he's getting close to harvesting cells. He's going to flare back left because now you're going to start your walk and you want to get your troops nice and together, so he flares them back left, and then he's going to flare up. Gets a smoke down, and then flares up, and we're going to go ahead and pause it right there. The reason why he dropped his smoke early is he does not want to lose delay on that rocket. So he goes ahead and drops a smoke perfectly in half and half on that range, does a flare up to his flare spot. He's going to walk there, get a smoke right there. Now, one thing that he has that sometimes you may not have, he has this cell to the left of his troops, which unfortunately is not letting me tap on cells. That cell is an anchor cell, so he can use that and let his troops settle. If you happen to take, or the previous person had taken those upper cells, then you have nothing to latch onto, and you may need to make sure before your troops settle and start going, all kinds of different directions, you need to get your flare over fast. On this one, he's got a little bit more of a margin for error, so that's why you'll see him not flare over as fast. He lets his troops settle under smoke because they're grabbing on, they're targeting that cell. And then he flares right over there, in between these two defenses, this laser beam and this doom cannon on a straight line to get them towards the core. You'll see his smoked. They slightly overlap. You don't want to super overlap them, but you do want to have a slight overlap because you can't afford to lose delay on this type of hit. And he gets that last smoke, which is a safe smoke, and then he flares at this point, which is at 530 of the core, and it's in between these lower two defenses, which is the doom cannon and the laser beam to the right of it. So that's your flare point of where you want to be on a typical hit. And then he's going to double smoke that ending. That way his troops can settle and he can flare to the core nice and early, and that way he can worry about his shock points. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pause it right there. So at slightly more than a quarter left in smoke, he's starting to throw out his critters, and then he's immediately going to switch and do his shocks. He's going to have 5 shock points. His critters are going to be over here on this machine gun, and the reason why is these rockets are in range on the very far left edge of the screen. Okay, so the critters are there for those and for this shock blaster that's right here as well. So that's why he's throwing critters, and you'll watch him do a re-critter. Now, his shocks are going to be as follows. He wants to get this doom cannon below the troops, plus the 2 laser beams next to it. That's going to be 1 shock point. The next shock point will be this machine gun, because if you throw critters on a machine gun and don't shock it, the machine gun's going to eat up the critters, and those rockets on the far left will fire and immediately destroy your troops. So he's got to get this machine gun, the doom cannon, and these 2 laser beams. That's his next shock. So his shock point is going to be slightly, it'll be on this middle laser beam here. So we got 2 shock points so far, and he's going to do a 3rd shock point, which will encompass this mortar and these 2 laser beams, which are in range as well. Okay, this doom cannon up top is slightly out of range. It may pick off a few edge troops, but we're not too worried about it. Laser beams on the far side, and this is why we park exactly where we park, are out of range. There are cannons on this far side. They're usually laser beams, but regardless, they would be out of range. Now going back down to about 530, we want to do our next shock point here, covering this laser beam, and this doom cannon. So that'll be the next shock point, and the last shock point will be over here at the far right at about 3 o'clock of the core, covering laser beam, and doom cannon. So that's our 5 shock points plus our critter. So you'll watch them. They're going to come out very fast. I do have this in half speed, but you'll see it. Unfortunately, you just, on these hits, I wish there was a quarter speed, but everything has to get done fast, and it has to get done fast for a reason. That's why these rushes are so difficult. So here we go. There, his critters out, and his shock points are going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I forgot the 6th shock point, which is actually on the 2 hot pots. And there it is. He got his re-critter, and then he's doing another re-critter to further keep his troops alive. at this point, the Hot Pots raise up and start going to town on his troops, but they had gotten their last shot off, and they were able to take down the core. So that's how to do the rush. Each green court is slightly different based on the defenses, so your shock points may not be those exact same shock points, but that's generally how to do the hit is, and especially if you're having to deal with far left rocket launchers, you need to get that critter down first, get your shock points, and get those shocks out. He had 6 on this one. Do not forget the Hot Pots right next to the core, like I did when I initially explained it, and then get re-critters down in order to save your troops. So this was an overall excellent hit. This was a good episode in order to teach you guys this green court rush. There'll be more content to follow. Please make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel Angry Dave, and Dave is out.